What? That's so cool.
Get off the computer, monkey.
Yo, dude.
This is the coolest thing about...
That is, wow. That is
And look
insane.
how fast and seamless it is.
We're recording as well, so all of this is on video.
It is so fun to go running around through all of this
Banter
game.
is a thing.
Just
remember?
looking at the nice textures, and then you hit the button, and it just becomes garbage.
We watched Robocop, by the way.
Garbage? No, man.
Alright, welcome to another episode of Couch Potatoes.
Hello.
Potatoes, welcome out, welcome. This time we're watching one movie instead of two movies because it's better.
And it's easier for David to edit. We watched a personal favorite of mine since he's been on a Paul Verhoeven kick recently. What else have you watched?
I watched Elle, and then I watched Starship Troopers.
Well, now you've got the trifecta. All your...
Trifecta. The Holy Trinity.
Cat! Stupid cat. All you're missing now is Total Recall.
What about...
I do want to watch that.
With the old one?
What about
I've
Basic
heard
Instinct
things.
and the Showgirls?
Did you get through?
No.
Everybody
Anyway,
got
so
AIDS
yeah.
and shit.
I wanted to... Everybody got AIDS!
AIDS and shit.
Man, everybody got AIDS and shit.
Look, there's a troll face.
Defy the covenant. Where?
To the left.
There's a meme. There's
Turn
meme
left.
text. I need to see this.
Left and up.
Stop it! We need to actually, like talk about
Playing
Paul
Halo
Verhoeven.
Anniversary also.
Sorry. Anyway, Robocop. Absolute hyper-violence. It's pretty fun.
So it's a
I thought it was
movie
gonna be bad. It was
where-
pretty good.
So it's a movie about a cop named Murphy gets
Exploded by shotguns in a
Exploded by-
hilarious and sad scene.
exploded by that guy from Star Trek.
And that 70s show. That's...
That 70s show. That's the crucial part here, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it's the Star
no
Trek.
one remembers him as that one villain on Star Trek with the weird
It's
goofy
Red
thing on
Foreman.
his
Red
head.
Foreman's a crime boss in
It's
Detroit.
called Year of Hell. It's a really good Star Trek Voyager two-parter.
Dear audience, have you ever seen that episode? Do you know the guy who plays Clarence Boddicker from that 70s show? Comment below if you think David's a weirdo.
So he gets killed, a bunch of people, and then ridiculous, and then sleazy corporate guy says, "Hey, we need to make
We need to build us a corporate-owned super cop. Get me that corpse and build him into a kick-ass robo superhero."
And they decided to do that because they want to build like a corporate city or something, and they want to sell more 6,000 sucks.
Yeah, 6,000 SUX, because they
6,000
keep promoting this, fake car in addition to the fake
It's
TV
really
show.
funny.
So
The fake news
great.
broadcast.
The mayor at the beginning is all complaining. Yeah, I don't know.
And that brings
it's the
me-
pretext that people have watched the movie, right?
Yes.
And that
Okay.
brings me to the next part of it, which I think is the secret sauce of this movie and pretty much all other Paul Verhoeven movies, which is irony.
Yeah,
He never plays anything straight. He's that's a big problem with the new Robocop, is that everything is played a little bit too straight.
The only time they
So-
tried to replicate the satire about, the media and stuff is when they kept cutting back to these clips of Samuel
Oh
L.
yeah,
Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson's O'Reilly Factor.
Yeah, where he's standing on a stage shouting about, politics and robot stuff and says, "Why is America so robophobic?" And it just doesn't have the same gravitas.
It doesn't have the same comedic timing and
No.
Because it's clearly trying to be funny and not failing, while as in the original one, these look like legit news broadcasts, and it's funny because it's dry humor, where it's and during the president's trip to space, there was a brief malfunction on the space shuttle, leaving him and his cabinet members temporarily in zero gravity, but everything's okay. It's just really weird, bizarre stuff.
It's really
but it's
sudden.
played
The
so straight.
Peacemaker Star Wars satellite, it killed over 10,000 people today in
and
a misfiring.
scorched a giant section of forest.
It's really depressing.
And that's the sort of irony that I really it's even more on the nose in something like Starship Troopers, where there's stuff like the strategic, what was it? The ground forces made me the man I am today.
Yeah.
And it shows him missing both legs and an arm.
Yeah, so Starship Troopers is really in your face and on the nose about how much it doesn't like the military, because it spends the whole movie kind of mocking them. While as Robocop is a little bit more subtle and it's like jabs at the police and more so the corporations.
It's a satire of corporate culture, I would say, and like just 80s America super greed and all that.
Yeah, right? There's all kinds of like, corporate espionage and like the people in the boardrooms or
They don't make that big of a deal out of it though.
Well, that's what's nice about it is that
I guess it's ironic, but
it isn't like the full focus of the movie. It's just in the background. It's good supplemental material.
And that's what I think is cool because it's got, like, the whole point of something like Starship Troopers is the irony. But with here, it's a little bit less straightforward where it's got a very personal human story and at the same time it's got all this irony.
Robocop is my favorite 80s superhero. I like how much...
He's not a superhero.
He's kind of like a superhero. I love how much emotion there was during the, 60 to 70% mark of the movie, because it got really depressing and sad, where he's just wandering around, trying to piece together memories of his old life.
And I like how they didn't give him a perfect happy ending and give him all the stuff that he wanted or the...
You know what I especially like about the trilogy as a whole, and I guess this is sort of a spoilers, but that he doesn't end up getting back together with his family. He just kind of goes, well, they wouldn't like me now, and then
and that's something that I don't like about the new RoboCop, is that there's a little bit too much of a happy ending.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
really?
It was... Yeah, well, because his wife... In the new movie, his wife meets up with him and then helps him regain his humanity,
It's
and
like,
then they go...
what are you doing? You have to go and see your son. It's a little bit too on the nose.
And he's like, my son, I'm a robot man now. And his son's like, well, Dad, why is you a robot man? Did Halo just freeze?
Although one thing that was really cool about the new RoboCop was that you got to see him, when he was being built, and he's just like a guy and some organs.
Oh,
and,
yeah, there's this really cool scene of body horror where it shows what's left of him.
And then he just gets to see himself in the mirror.
They disassembled all of the robot parts off of him, and he's just lungs in a jar with
and
an esophagus
and an arm
and a hand hanging way off far to the left, and the only thing connecting it to the rest of the body is the robot arm. And he's just a head and lungs, basically. And they even take off the top of his helmet, and there's just a brain in, glass. And he's crying because he can see himself. That was, the only really awesome scene from the reboot, because it was this sort of, body horror, but it was played kind of straight. Mm-hmm. And that you could even, when he, gets choked up and he swallows a little, you could see the tube through the glass with his
throat
esophagus, and it's just... it jolts up and down in a little bit. It's really gross looking.
Yeah, I don't know. I think those little details kind of bring out a reality to the situation.
Yeah,
kind of makes the character human.
This was also a very realistic sort of take on it. But one thing that I really liked that wasn't realistic was the gun effects. I really when I watch old 60s cheesy 60s cheesy like a James Bond movie from the 60s, like Goldfinger or something, they have those sort of cheesy gun effects, and this had that too. I feel that there's some studio in LA where they just have a library of cheesy sound effects from old movies, and they just used them.
Gun sound effects used to be so much more impressive.
Little bling, bling, dong, bling, bling.
Yeah, where the bullets are ricocheting off of his chest.
The ricochet sound and all that. Those sound effects.
Poink.
They don't play that anymore.
They don't play that anymore.
Placac.
I mean, because it's cheesy.
It's cheesy.
I like it. Especially
I love
in
those
sci-fi,
sound effects. It's so much bassier.
It sounds heavier.
It's just something nostalgic for me, those old sound effects that I used to watch those sort of movies as a kid and listen to that, and it doesn't feel. I mean, granted, the newer effects are more realistic.
Yeah.
But the older effects sound better.
They're more fun.
There's something more cinematic about a gun going off and it going and just shaking the screen. It's so loud.
Or it's kind of like how I love model spaceships more than I like CG spaceships, even though the CG ones are more realistic. The models just look cooler.
Yeah, what did you guys think about the stop motion effects for Ed 209 in this?
They looked bad. They looked.
They were, I mean, dated, yes.
They were
dated, yes, but impressive considering the competition. Because if you look up the,
They didn't age very well.
they
Let's
didn't
just
age
say
very
that.
well. Here, the reason I appreciate them is because if you look at other movies coming out around the same time, with the same kind of stop motion effects, this was like miles better. Like if you watch the first Terminator, it is so bad the
Like,
way the Terminator moves. It is
here's
very
the
clearly
thing.
an action figure. Here it was wonky and didn't look right, but at least it was like partially believable because it did have a sort of weight to it.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I love stop motion effects in general. I'm a huge fan of, Leica and all these sort of stop motion animation stuff. I do think that it's kind of cheesy, but there's a style to it. I kind of like the style of the practical CG, effects.
Yeah.
But I do think that it needed a little bit of work.
Yeah. I think the only effect in this movie that really bugs me is right at the end.
Allergies. Sorry.
Okay, he's
I know the
allergic to
feeling.
cats, and I have a lot of them.
He's got 5 animals.
Is at the end when he throws the bad guy out the window?
Oh yeah, the
very,
blue
very
screen.
last
Oh
one.
yeah, the
Well, because there, it was
cheesy
like
blue
it
screen.
looked like they did like a claymation model of him as he was falling because his arms looked way too long and his head looked really rubbery as he was falling. Like if you go and pause it, it looked awful. But
I'll
boy,
give
did those explosions look amazing!
They looked really cool. For
You know
sure.
what? The I think the coolest scene to me is when the gas station blows up and RoboCop is very clearly
Yeah,
in the
that's what I
epicenter of the explosion and he's still walking through it. And you don't it baffles me how they did that because it didn't look like he was superimposed. It looked like there's a guy standing in the middle of this massive explosion and he doesn't give a shit. I wonder
like
how
that.
they did that.
I did like a lot of that. Like, I like the lighting, the sort of like neon lights that they did. Those look.
They were
really
so
cool.
subtle. I was telling Xavier, it feels synth like there's this current thing where it's
There's
going,
the
like,
bar scene.
new age synth.
like
Currently.
Atomic Blonde.
Yeah, where everything's
Yes,
trying to look
kind
like
of.
80s, but is
Yeah.
going like hyper exaggerated.
Yeah,
with it.
and
Blonde
I
is
like
set
that.
in
That's
the
like
80s.
that's like new wave or synth wave. People have given it a bunch of labels, but I appreciate that in old films. I really like the way
when
that
it's
it looks.
when
like,
it's not like manufactured, it just actually looked like that.
yeah, like all that tech noir stuff in fucking. No, I'm just thinking
like
of the
Far
name of the
Cry,
song.
Blood Dragon, and Saints Row
Well, like
4. and all
when I
these
think of
things.
like old stuff that did it right, I think of Terminator. Terminator, yeah, fuck.
With-
That one had a bar scene,
Terminator, was there was the
Terminator
bar
had a
scene.
bar
obviously
scene.
Blade
RoboCop
Runner.
had a bar scene.
There's a lot of movies in the 80s where there's always a
Bars.
scene where the badass guy's walking into like a club and everyone's dancing and having a great time with their mohawks and
Yeah,
their
but their hair is
suspenders.
insane, and the colors are crazy, and the neon is just unnecessary,
music
and
is
I
going-
love it. Yeah, like music that is absolutely unconventional for the time, and I appreciate it.
and then the badass robot man ends up explodifying someone's head with his super fists, and everyone just keeps partying anyway because they don't give a shit. God, the 80s were a great time. I mean,
They
I
weren't.
get really
Like, culturally, they're a great time.
To
live- But
to live in the 80s was shit.
Yeah.
But boy, did their
Didn't-
movies rock.
People just walk into explosives.
I'm serious. Like, the 80s were a terrible time to live. I mean, if you
Who
speak
cares?
look,
I mean, the people from the 80s care,
look,
but
here's the thing. If you actually talk to somebody who lived through the 80s, they'll tell you how it wasn't that great. But if you see somebody who looks back on the 80s, they'll talk about how great it was.
Yeah.
yeah, I'll give you that.
There's a nostalgia filter, of course.
I call it-
None of us were there,
Here's
so
the thing.
we don't have it.
I coined this term, and I'm gonna bring it back. It's synthetic nostalgia. It's nostalgia for a time or a place that you were never actually a part of.
And
Yeah.
this stuff exists, man. Like hardcore.
People have been really.
They've been
like,
pulling it back a lot now.
The
With the
80s
new
have
age
come
synthwave
back
stuff.
super hard between all the music
And the 90s too. The 90s have come back in like Independence Day too.
Oh God,
Yeah.
fucking.
Yeah.
Who's excited for Scream?
And, like,
Whatever.
Atomic-
9?
and who's excited for the next Saw movie?
Oh god, that wasn't a '90s thing. That was a 2000s thing.
Well, the 2000s are coming back too. Everybody
Are
hates.
Yeah,
Sorta.
pretty much. I feel like we're right on the. It's been long enough now that in the next 10 years we'll start seeing early 2000s nostalgia, where people will start like bringing back all the movies where
Battlestar Galactica reboot.
everyone was wearing
Of the reboot.
black leather all the time.
Matrix
and-
reboot. They're working on a Matrix remake. Remember?
Oh yeah,
They
you're
are?
right. 2000s are
Yep.
back.
They're working
fuck.
on a Matrix remake or reboot or whatever.
That's bad.
Where all the superheroes are wearing leather, and the lighting is always just black with orange highlights and everything.
So
Everyone's got sunglasses on, and everyone's got an Uzi in one hand.
We're both gonna die. Yeah.
Halo movie.
Oh yeah, shit.
That's a
shit.
2000s thing.
Yeah.
Was that a 2000s thing?
Yeah, Halo
This
is
game
2000s.
is from 2001.
Oh no, I know, but I mean like
They were gonna make a Halo movie.
I thought that they made a Halo movie like
No, they were trying to, with Peter Jackson producing and Neil Blomkamp directing.
And then they gave up.
It fell through, so then Peter Jackson was like, hey man, I'm sorry. I
Do
realized...
you want all this money to go make
Hey,
some
listen,
other thing?
Hey, listen, I'll give you $50 million as like a IOU. I'll give you $50 million to make whatever you want.
And then
then
Neil
he made
Blomkamp
District
was like,
9.
"I'm gonna make District 9," and that like launched his
that was
career.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so District 9 was going to be a Halo movie, and then it just didn't. It didn't work out. So fun fact.
So yeah, but in
I
terms
become
of
more educated
Robocop,
every day.
it's already got a remake, and it's got a TV show as well, apparently, that I didn't know
Yeah,
about.
we just checked on Amazon Prime just because he has that account set up because Netflix is too mainstream.
Well, hey, it has the Grand Tour. I love Top Gear, okay?
It's got the tick. Anyway, we checked there, and I was shocked when I found out they had all the extra RoboCop stuff after the
Except
first
for the
movie.
original
They had everything except the very first movie, which I had
and
on DVD.
and the remake.
And the remake. But they had the TV show and the
RoboCop
miniseries
2,
Prime
RoboCop
Directives.
3.
RoboCop 2 is not as good as the first, but still really
Oh,
awesome.
RoboCop 3 is the one where he gets the jetpack, right?
RoboCop 3 is the one where Peter Weller read the script and is like, this is garbage, I'm not doing this. And they had to get a different guy to be RoboCop, and it just sucked. And he fights ninjas, and they have swords, and he has a
has a
RoboCop jetpack, and he's flying around.
I appreciate this.
And he... And then Prime Directives is from what I remember, because it was on TV like once, like in 2010, and I saw it. Is basically it takes place like 20 years later, and RoboCop can't age, and he's still RoboCop. And then he finds out that his son became a police officer, and he wants to go talk to him, but he's not sure how. And he's like, "Hey, remember your dead dad?
That's me.
That's like 80% of my current body. I'm a different guy, kinda, but like I'm a little bit your dad." And,
But I'm a little. You want to talk?
hey, how you doing, sport? And he goes, "RoboCop, leave me alone."
RoboCop.
And then there's the TV show where RoboCop gets crushed by a hydraulic press, and then the hydraulic press that's supposed to crunch cars explodes around him because he's so strong.
So bad.
And then he bursts
I
through
know.
and is like, "They're alive, you're coming with me." I can't wait to watch all that stuff now that I know it's on there.
So yeah,
That sounds really dumb.
This was an
and
interest.
fun.
I think it's funny. I was kind of reluctant to watch this film just because everybody told me to watch it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
like Fight Club, you're like, it's not going to live up to the hype.
It's not gonna live up to the hype, and I also just get sick of people asking me. It's like,
I guess that's fair, but you have to be aware of like. I don't know. When you do something, you have to be aware of the hype and understand that it should not affect your opinion.
It shouldn't have like
even
color
if
your
even
opinion
if I
of
don't
the
want
final
it to,
product.
it will eventually.
Yeah,
I guess.
it's
Fallout
fair that, yeah.
It's
is a prime
impossible to
example.
avoid.
Fallout 4.
Fallout 4 didn't live up to the hype because the hype was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Half-Life 3. Dude, Valve is so smart. They're making as much money as they can right now off the fact that they don't need to make a game. It's as simple as that. They just simply do not need to make a
Apple
game.
saying they have to make an app.
We don't have to. We have so much money coming in from like
Other people doing it for us.
yeah. We just are a vendor for games. This is really off topic from RoboCop.
I'm okay with that.
I like how most video games during like the early 2000 teens, like 2012 and up to I think 2015, kept trying to like have
Battery's
RoboCop
fire.
references, like
I don't know
Far
where-
Cry Blood Dragon and Saints Row 4. Both you can play with Robocop's pistol in those games. It was great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate those little references. Fallout New Vegas did something similar, but it's not a reference to that. I think it was a reference to Blade Runner.
Where?
Fallout 3
Fallout New
has
Vegas,
a reference
it has
to
a-
the thing
there's a
where one of
pistol
the
you can buy,
characters is named after
and it looks
MacLeod.
like an old weapon. Oh, really?
Yeah. That kid in Little Lamplight in Fallout 3
Oh!
is named after the main character of the thing.
Wait, in what? Sorry, I was confused. I was thinking about something else.
The
So-
kid in Little Lamplight, the guy with the
Let's
the hat.
talk about
I
Robocop.
remember him.
3. He's named after the main character of the thing.
So, yeah.
Literally the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what thing? Did I miss something?
Well, I
yeah, the
mean-
movie is called The Thing.
Well, I mean, this Fallout New Vegas could be an homage to RoboCop because they're both about like people who are thought to be dead.
I feel like there's a lot of RoboCop in Fallout just because you keep seeing all these like do you remember the toy commercial in RoboCop that played before the because like most of the
well, that's
the
irony.
world
It's-
building in RoboCop is done through showing you sketches from television.
You basically
like
watch
commercials
the
and
cable
stuff.
news.
Yeah, right? So you see commercials, like you get a feel for what the media is like or what TV is like or what the news is like. It's a neat trick and you don't see it often. But I feel like
It's a
Fallout,
Paul Verhoeven staple. Like,
yeah. He did
there's
that
a lot
in,
of that in Starship Troopers.
There's a lot of it in Starship Troopers. I think there's even a little bit of it in Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Sure, I guess. Well, in the sense of
So my
it's
question
incredibly
is,
in your face.
Yeah.
so my question is like, how do you keep like? Here's the thing. So I noticed in I noticed a lot in whatchamacallit.
Starship Troopers.
No. In Batman versus Superman
Yeah.
and what's the other one? Batman versus Superman and Captain America: Civil War. Both of them.
Where
There
they keep
was-
cutting to news
There was
footage.
a lot of cutting to news footage. It was all just cheap, like cheap. It was very cheap. It was just used for the sake of like exposition, just purely cheap exposition.
It
So
didn't
how do you
help build the world? It just helped get out of the way stuff that
It was
the
just
audience
exposition, like, oh no, how are we gonna make Captain America know about this thing that happened?
missed. We'll
Okay,
just show it on the news. He watches the news.
everybody watches cable news in the movies. It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah. While as with RoboCop, it's not necessarily all pertinent information.
We don't really show. You don't see.
No, but it
anybody-
does a great job of world building, and it's
You
like
don't-
in your face. It's I mean,
And the
almost
other
There
thing
is
is that-
pertinent information, like when they talk about how the cops are on strike, or when they even talk about
But
RoboCop's
here's the
unveiling.
thing. They never use it as cheap exposition to just say, okay, here's a character, here's how they know
Yeah.
what's happening.
Well,
It's instead just here's what's going on outside of just the very small story of what's happening to Murphy.
I was trying to find a way to put it into words, but I think it's like I had it in my head a second ago. It's desensitized.
Yeah.
Everything that's happening is absolutely desensitized. And that's something that kind of Fallout does pretty well. But in this case, it really that's the aspect of world building that it's trying to go for. It's just wow, that was really serious, and no one reacted to it in the way that they should have.
Yeah, like there was a presidential
Kill it and
assassination.
run.
Dang.
Kill it and run. Kill it and run.
You know, like, or even one of my favorite scenes is in the corporate boardroom meeting when the guy gets gunned down by the prototype Ed 209. Like,
And
he just
everybody's like,
ripped to shreds,
"A
and then the guy
glitch?"
goes, "It's just a glitch, sir." He goes, "Are you serious?" Just
Yeah.
because it's so stupid that he goes, "Don't worry, we'll have the engineers look over it and fix it." Like he talks about it like their game at E3 just had like a texture glitch out.
Oops.
But instead it was, no, someone got murdered and destroyed the office.
Oops.
Everyone's
My bad.
desensitized, and it's cool.
and
Yeah.
that's I think that's what
That's a lot
The
of that's a
secret
trademark
sauce
of
for a lot
new
of
wave
s-
stuff.
Yeah.
the secret stuff for a lot of the secret sauce for Paul Verhoeven, I would say overall, and for for these sort of stories that a lot of the remakes don't get is the irony.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, RoboCop 2 it's got this one scene that's better than all of the scenes in RoboCop 1 that really saves it as a movie. And it's them testing out prototypes for RoboCop 2, like the official, we're gonna make another one. And it just keeps getting worse and worse because they can't figure out how to recreate Murphy's situation. Because, like, they accidentally caught lightning in a bottle with him. So, there's this scene where they're, like, going through the list, unveiling the new Robocop, and it's like this really kick-ass looking robot, and then it peels its face off, and it's got like a horrible skeleton, and its eyes hanging out, and then it shoots itself in the brain. And it's so hilarious just because everyone's reacting to it like, darn, we'll have to get another one.
It's depressing.
Yeah, the Robocop 2 in general is just like really... I think it takes it even further where they're trying to figure out how to recreate him, and they don't find a guy who has the same tragic backstory. They just shove whoever's head in the robot, and that is the kind of like the main thing of the plot. Robocop 2 is worth checking out in addition to the first one. Don't watch Robocop 3.
Wah, wah.
It's don't watch the one with the ninjas and the Robocop jetpack.
I really like that.
Okay, if I could spoil Robocop 3, Lewis gets killed off in it in a really... You know, because, like, Robocop's
the girl
buddy,
cop?
his partner, Lewis, yeah. And Lewis gets killed off, like, 20 minutes into Robocop 3 just because she was like, if Peter Weller's not going to be here, I don't want to be here. This is kind of, like, complete garbage. I'm not going to be in for this. So she just gets shot at one point next to her car by, like, just some random thug, like, 20 minutes into the movie. And it's really unceremonious, and it's really uncomfortable and weird.
You know, I think the other funny thing about thinking about, like, Robocop as... it's like as a 80s franchise versus a modern-day one is that they didn't invest as much in the sequels. They didn't try as hard with the sequels as they do today. Like, today, sequels are a serious investment. You have to, like... Oh, it's not like we're gonna just hand it over to directing to some random idiot. We're gonna get the old director back to do another one because we need to make it. We need to make our money back, and we need to have a bigger budget for the sequel instead of a smaller
more
budget.
explosions, more bad guys, more exploding
Because if
heads.
you don't outdo the second one, then you can't have a trilogy.
That's the thing I think in general about trilogies. I mean, there's a lot of exceptions, but I think there's also a lot of ones that hold true. Is that first one is good, second one is way better, third one is not as good as the first and ends up being the worst one, whether it's bad or not. I feel like that applies to, like, I don't know, 60 to 80% of trilogies, if you think about it. Like Star Wars,
Alien Covenant.
Yeah, I imagine that if they do a third movie, it's gonna suck. I liked Alien Covenant. You know what? Fucking let's fight about it. I enjoyed it.
You just kill yourself?
Yes.
I don't know why everyone hated Alien Covenant so much.
I'm in combat. You're never coming back.
Apparently, I am.
Dang it.
Or the Dark Knight trilogy. Batman Begins is alright, but then Dark Knight's great, and
It's
then
all Dark Knight's all right.
and then Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight retires.
Dark Knight Retires.
Retires.
That's it.
All
That's
of us
the
are
title.
the
Dark Knight Retires is not as good as either of the other two, in my opinion.
In my opinion, it's
Excuse me, sir. Can you stop firing? Excuse me, sir.
If you get an achievement if you blow up all three of those.
Really?
Yeah, it's harder on this difficulty. If you put it on easy, you could just like blow them up in 3 pistol shots because the
Magnum's OP in this game. I forgot.
The Magnum is the death cannon.
It's the Magnum Opus.
Someone described it as the car that... Not the car. Someone described it as the gun that fires live sharks.
You're a shark.
Yeah, because that's what everyone knew this weapon for. It's just incredibly strong. I want to hijack it. There's no
I don't think
hijacks
you
in it.
can.
No, not in the first
yet.
one.
See, you blew up a spaceship with a tiny pistol.
Do we have anything else to say about RoboCop?
The costume and makeup effects are fucking awesome.
I think the
I really
sequel's
like the
makeup were better.
costume. I think the costume. Well, of course, but
The
like for its
costume-
time, the costume was absolutely well made. I thought I had such a good time. Like, this is actually really impressive.
Yeah, it looks great. It's not well made because Peter Weller almost died wearing it. He was like,
Okay, well,
he lost
visually.
30 pounds from sweating in it so much. He was like
He lost all of his
rail
water
thin-
weight.
Yeah, he lost all his water weight. They had to install a bunch of fans inside of it that kept shorting out because of his sweat because that suit was so uncomfortable. And also, he couldn't wear the whole thing in the driving scenes So he was actually only wearing it from, like, the waist up in the scenes where he's driving the car. And from down, he's just in his underwear because it was so, like, it was easier to just breathe in it.
Why do you remember these things?
I like movie
strafe so you
facts.
don't shoot me. Stop! Can you stop?
Friendly
I've got
fire.
the Magnum. I've got the Magnum, dude. I'm gonna beat you up. I mean, eventually. We're really bad at this game.
This game's great. I wish there was a Robocop
It doesn't
video
let me
game.
hurt you.
Josh, okay, pitch me a Robocop video game right now. What kind of gameplay does it
Shit.
have? Is it a first-person shooter?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Third person.
I'd give it, like, open world exploration because it feels like Robocop has some depth you want to give to it, right?
I would give it a very tanky, heavy character, like in Dead Space.
I was thinking of a really dumb idea, like a game idea, except like tanky, but to a really dumb, ridiculous point where it's just like you have the car, right? You can drive around. That's
You
it.
can drive
also-
around the car, but you get out of it.
No,
you're
when you get out of it, you clunk, right? So like you want to fight someone, you have to get in the car and drive up.
And it has to be upgradable. You have to have an upgradable skill tree for your
clunky boots.
for your
There's not much-
Robocop suit, where you can
that-
you can add new features to it.
Yeah. So you can get extra.
You can
Robocop
add
guns. You can get the cannon that they use at the end of the movie, and then blow up whole cars with it.
you can get like a rocket grenade launcher arm.
You know
or
what'd be
something.
cool is if during one of the boss fights,
I don't want this gun.
during the boss fights, you have to fight a senior OCP employee, but you can't fire directly at him, so you point the reticle at him, and then the gun jams. Like, you just can't physically pull the trigger, so you have to figure out ways to destroy the area around him to take him out.
Or you feed him
That wouldn't make any sense.
food.
That'd be really dumb because you're still killing him.
No, you just blow up the room, and it will fall on him, and he's collateral damage. Like, don't fire, like, next
But
to
there
him.
would
Like,
be a reason
start
for that.
knocking out support columns.
Nah, dude, that'd make no sense because the whole point is to kill him anyway. You're aware of that. I don't know. It's a complete lack of immersion. That's dumb. Games need to be immersive.
Well, when we eventually make this RoboCop game, we'll figure it out.
The Robocop is Robocrap.
He's also got to have his hand knife. That's a flash drive.
That's actually a flash. Except this time it needs to be an actual USB.
Hacking minigame. Hacking minigame.
Yeah, hacking mini games. Or
You just stab someone. That's the hacking mini.
stab them and then hack their throat open.
I hacked you. Literally.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Your move,
Creep. I love that scene in the movie where he uses the knife, like, computer access port thing to stab Clarence Boddicker in the neck with it, and then just this, it's not blood just squirts out, it's just falls, like, just the contents of his neck just flop down on RoboCop's chest when he did it, just boom, and it's really disgusting and horrible. Then he pulls it out and there's even more blood. Oh yeah, one of the best parts about this movie is the guy from That 70s Show and Star Trek who plays
But mostly that 70s show.
But mostly Star
that's
Trek.
him. And also that one show about the town where people keep coming back from the dead, and he's like, my son who died in the 70s is back, or something.
I died in the 70s and came back.
Yeah. You know who died in the 80s and came back?
Peter Weller.
Murphy.
Peter Weller.
There's also a
that?
RoboCop cartoon that's aimed at kids.
Oh, of course.
I'm not joking. There was a cartoon in the 80s, and it was really horrible.
It's actually funny, actually.
We should look that up and see if that's on Amazon Prime too. Is the
I'm sure it
RoboCop Kids cartoon?
The old pistol compared to the new one.
I think you can find the clips of it on YouTube. Go check out parts of that RoboCop Kids cartoon, because boy is it weird and uncomfortable to have it be so kid friendly.
I'll give you that. Can you stop? You're
Can-
actually making me... You just killed me. Stop. I'm gonna be that guy that totally bitches about
Never
you
gonna
killing
do it
me
again.
instead
Team
of...
Killer. I wish we were playing Unreal Tournament so we could get the announcer.
I really, really want to play Unreal Tournament now.
I love it. The announcer is the
So-
best part. I keep using it in my videos whenever he goes, Team Killer.
I think we should just stop.
Unfriggin' believable.
So I think we should wrap this up unless you have anything else to say about Robocop. So
Nope.
final thoughts, everyone?
RoboCop created Skynet, and that's canon.
That's not.
That's
It's
actually
totally
a thing,
canon.
though.
There's
It's
a comic book where
Hey,
he
look,
plugs into a
look.
military computer with
It's
his knife
ridiculous.
thing.
Hey,
and then it
comic
goes
books are not
RoboCop.
canon.
Comic books are so canon.
They are to me, damn it!
Doesn't make
They're
sense,
not
David.
canon,
What do you
even
mean?
to other comic books.
Yeah, well, you know what? Your Star Trek books aren't canon either.
I know, they're trash. I'm glad they're not canon.
You know what else is trash? Star
What?
Trek as a franchise.
Whoa!
Total joke. Absolutely just to spite David.
Okay,
Let's go. I'm gonna...
objectively, Robocop
David's
is
gonna
better than
1v1
Star
me.
Trek. There, I said it.
Except you're wrong.